Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is part 2 of our pfSense 2.44 virtual build. In my first video I went over how to install pfSense, how to set up the Vmware workstation and the virtual NICs to match a actual pfSense appliance that you would buy from Netgate. As you can see here on the screen, I currently have our WAN, LAN, LAN 2, and DMZ. In the other video, we configured everything for this. We set everything up so that we're able to actually log in and go ahead and do the basic configuration. So today's video is actually going to show you how to set up the firewall rules for each one of them if you're actually in a real environment. So I did my best I can to actually try to replicate a real environment as best I can for it. But for the most part, what I'm actually going to show you today is actually how you would do it no matter what environment you're in. Whether it's at your home, whether it's actually in a business. So we're actually going to set it up a couple of ways. First is LAN's is going to be left as default. Okay, so we have LAN 2 and DMZ. Now when you purchase any pfSense software, everything outside of WAN and LAN is not configured. So the DMZ, the LAN 2 right now have no internet access, no capabilities of doing anything. They can't even network to each other. They don't even have DHCP. They're pretty much got to be configured from start. So I have an actual Linux OS running here. As you can see here, it's connected to our DMZ. So we're just going to do a couple quick tests here. Like first test is always to ping. So we're going to ping the modem. Oops. So 172.16.01. Oops. If I can actually type it in correctly. 16.0.1. So as you can see, it doesn't come back with anything. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try Google. No internet. All right. And let's try Google DNS. So as you can see here, no internet connectivity at all for this. It doesn't even see the modem. It sees nothing. It is completely dead. I'll go ahead and open up a web browser just to show you as well that it is dead. And unfortunately, it does take a long time on the Raspbian OS to load a web browser. While that's loading here, we're going to go down here to my notepad. So in video 1, we went ahead and took care of all this. Okay. Now the setup of the OS and labs, these are actually a step that we're kind of skipping. I'm assuming you went ahead and did this by yourself already. If you have never set up a Windows server, a Linux server, Windows 10 install, or a Linux workstation, just look at my other videos. There's plenty of other videos online as well. So if you don't like, I do Ubuntu, I've done Debian, I've done Linux Mint, I've done Windows 10, Windows 7. If for some reason you want to use something different, please go ahead and take a look at my other videos, or you can go ahead and find something else. All you need is just a basic install of a Windows client, a Windows server, and a Linux client. Because in part 3 of the video, I'm going to show you how to get the Windows Active Directory and the Linux Active Directory to work on these new setups. But for today, we're just going to set up the basic networking, as you can see here. So we're going to enable DHCP on LAN 2 and the DMZ. We're going to open up the internet ports for them, and we're going to block networking from all 3 of them. And then we're going to go ahead and test it in the environment, and the Raspberry environment, to show that it is actually functioning. Okay, I also wrote out an actual long list here of everything that we have to do. Like I said, I have it set up for 2 different ways. LAN number 2 is going to be set up for, like, if you're at your home. You don't really need a high security with certain things. You just kind of want to just do the basic to get yourself up and going and ready to go with it. Nothing too crazy. And then our DMZ, I actually have that set up for a corporate environment. So if you actually have a job, a company that needs a pfSense router, they cannot connect to a certain internet. They don't want to see outside DHCPs. They just want basically access to a website and to basically everything else, and all other ports will be locked down so that there is, less chance of hacking or vulnerabilities. Again, this will all be in the description below. I always put all this stuff in there. I will go ahead and post this as an actual link to my cloud drive because I don't want to end up writing all this out in the description and having some issues. So you'll be able to get a PDF of everything we have written right here. So if you want to try these at home as well, you can. And you'll also get a copy of the firewall that I'm putting up together. As I explained in the last video, you will have to go ahead and create the virtual NICs from our previous video to go ahead and set that up, as you can see here. So these are how you have to set up your virtual NICs. Once these are all set up, then you're able to go ahead and correct everything. So go ahead and minimize that. All right, so now you see here, we're at here, and we'll just click on YouTube. And it pretty much should either error out or just not do anything. To be honest with you, it's probably not going to do anything besides sit here. But as you can see, it's taking way too long for any kind of internet connectivity. Now I believe if I disconnect it and then as well reconnect, it should get a 169 as the internet, which means that DHCP is not enabled on the server and it cannot find anything. So ifconfig. Oh, it did. And the reason why I found this is because it's already been connected before to an IP. So I went ahead and found another IP address. Oh, actually here. It did find a 169 on here. So let's try that again. It could have been left over from my previous testing with everything. Yep. So IP link. And it is telling me that, yes, it is down. Okay, but as you can see over here, Ethernet 0 configured to 169.254.229.34, which pretty much means it does not see an internet connection at all. I have to manually set one. Okay, so now that we have everything here, everybody, you just go ahead and start your pfSense. Okay, so once it gets to this screen, as you can see here, I'm already loaded up to it. I have all my NICs are showing properly. I have no errors previously. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to go to our network card, 10.0.0.254. Okay, that's what our LAN is set, as you can see here. Now the way it's set up is that if you try to go to any one of these other ones, it's not going to work. They're not even actually functioning, as we said before. So the only way you can actually get to this is by going 10.0.0.254. Okay, so if you're following along at home while doing this, you should be pretty much doing the same IP address as I have. Your WAN might be different than mine, but everything else, your LAN, LAN2, and DMZ, all should be the same. The domain name here will more likely be pfSense at local domain. I ended up putting it out to the website because normally if you're setting this up for a business, you're going to want to put it as a website. So it will be pfSense.companyname.com. So example, pfSense.google.com. Just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea. Okay, so first things first, we got to do DHCP because it's not going to do any good for us. So we're going to go to Services and we're going to click on DHCP Server. Now, as you can see here in my notes that you'll have, we are literally explaining here exactly how to set up LAN and DHCP. So the first one right here is for your LAN2, and this one is for DMZ. So we're going to go ahead and I pretty much wrote these out, but we're going to do it on screen together. So we're going to click on LAN2. And as you can see here, it's not enabled. So I'm going to click Enable. I'm going to go down here to range because you've got to put a range in. So 192.168.3.6. to 192.168.3.200. Now, this number right here, you see, this is the actual range you can make it. So if I wanted to make it 192.168.3.1 to 192.168.3.254, you're more than welcome to. Usually, I don't like to make it the full range. I usually make it smaller, whatever, just because sometimes if I'm going to do some testing, I would rather just connect it. Example, I'm going to plug in my laptop to my pfSense router, and I'm going to give it a static IP because I know all that information, so I know it'll go ahead and pick it up without, because say DHCP is not working properly or something like that, able to go in and fix it. If you have DHCP running and it's running on all available IP addresses, sometimes you can get some kind of conflict errors if you're trying to static an IP to it. So I give it most of it, or if some people do it instead of 6, they'll do 100. It's up to you. There really is no wrong way of doing this, as long as you keep it within this number. Okay, scroll down to the bottom and hit save. All right, now what you got to do is up here in the corner, you see restart services. You're going to go ahead and click on that. Now what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead, it's going to stop and restart the DHCP server, because even though we saved it, it's actually not taking effect until we hit that button or reset our pfSense router. Okay, so now we're going to do the same exact thing for DMZ. Enable DHCP server for the DMZ. Now as you can see here, we're running a 172 at a subnet of /16. So it's a very large pool, you can see there, 172.16.0.1 to 172.16.255.254. So it's a lot of IP addresses we're using for the DMZ. This is actually something you would use in a corporate environment. You really would use a 172 number with that. You can also do the same thing with a 192, 192.168.0.0, and then make it /16. Or /12, whatever you really want, to give yourself a really large pool. But commonly, you'll usually see a 172 with a very high /16 in there. So again, for this one, I went ahead and went with 172.16.0.6, and I dragged it all the way out to a 172.16.255.200. You can also, if you really want, you can just change that to a 0. So it'll give yourself 200, but I wanted you guys to be able to actually make it as broad as we possibly can. And like always, available range, you can make it these two exact numbers if you want, and that gives you the full spectrum. And like before, go down to the bottom, hit save, and then restart. Okay, so now it's all ready to go. So now we go back over here. We can go ahead and see that we went ahead and did step 1 and step 2. We enabled DHCP for LAN 2 and DMZ. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to test it to make sure that these are working correctly. So you'll need to boot up your VM workstation and a VM that you're using, for instance, like Windows or Linux. I'm going to use Raspbian, again, because it's very quick and easy and lightweight, so it only takes a few seconds. I don't got to wait for Linux or Windows to load. It is the same principle no matter how we look at it. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and ping the following 4 different locations. So we're going to ping our gateway, the Google DNS, google.com, and we're going to ping the 10.0.0.254. Okay, we should receive back OKs on every one of them, but if not, it's also probably because our firewall rules down here are not functioning properly. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our pfSense, go to Diagnostics, and click on Ping. And then here, I'm going to type in google.com. The source address will be LAN 2, and then we're going to hit Ping. As you can see here, it is seeing the internet, so we're good to go with that. And then we do the same thing with the DMZ. And as you can see here, it finds it. Now, as you can see, it does show you the IP address, so it's not like a mix-up from the previous one or some kind of glitch in the system. We know that right now this network is seeing the internet. So let's go ahead and minimize this, minimize that. Then we're going to go over here to our Raspbian. I'll move that out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. Now, as you can see here, before it said a 169 number, now it actually found a 172, 16, 94, and 182. So we know DHCP is working on there. I'm going to hit disconnect real quickly. And then we're going to go to settings because I want to switch it over. So here, network adapter, custom. And we'll click LAN 2 because we created DHCP for that. Back down at the bottom, we're going to left click and hit connect. All right, it'll take about a few minutes for it to go ahead and understand what's going on. So as you can see, it came up. And then up here, we have now a 192.168.3.6. So I'm going to go ahead and move that over here. Open up another one. So ifconfig. So we can see here, it is seeing that. So that means the DHCP server is functioning. And let's see, should be able to ping 192.168.3.1, which is the server. Okay. So it's telling me it can't ping this server, and that's mainly because we haven't connected the firewall yet. So, but again, we'll just do it again. Ping 8.8.8.8. And we should get a host unreachable again. Or just a straight error out as it's doing right now. And then we're going to go ahead to google.com. And we should get an error saying it's unreachable as well. Or more likely an error with resolving the name because it doesn't know what DNS server it is right now. Alright, so there you go. Name or service is not known because at this moment the DNS is not functioning. Alright, so in this case here, we went ahead, we found out that DHCP is working because it did pull an IP address, but we're still unable to see the internet. And the reason why we're still unable to see the internet is because pfSense does not allow you to see the internet. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go click on this. Actually, I'm going to leave this one on LAN 2, and we're going to do LAN 2 first before we do the DMZ. But when we go to DMZ, we'll see that it automatically will connect as well. So we're going to go ahead. I'll clear that. I'll clear that. Okay, so let's go back to our pfSense web connect configure. So as we see here, it is seeing the internet, but it doesn't see the internet in the clients. Now, when you go down to firewall and rules, you have all your interfaces. Your WAN, LAN, LAN 2, and DMZ. Okay, so when I click on LAN 2, it's empty. When I click on DMZ, it's empty. But when I click on LAN, you have the 3 default rules that pop in. The first one is the LAN anti-lockout tool, which you want to make sure that never gets turned off, because if you do, you are going to have a hard time getting back into your pfSense, and you will have to actually do a reinstall or do a backup to before you delete the rule. And then you got 2 other rules here. Rule number 1 is anything on IPv4 on LANnet out to anything is A-OK in their eyes. And anything on IPv6 to LANnet out is A-OK in their eyes. Alright, so for testing purposes, let's go back to Raspbian. Go to settings, go to LAN, hit OK. It went ahead and disconnected. And now it's going to go ahead and reconnect to our LAN network. So I can show you that it is actually seeing the internet. It is because the firewall rules are working. It's not because we have a broken virtual machine. So you can see 10.0.0.10 DHCP is working. Go back over here to ifsconfig just to make sure. Okay, it is seeing it. It has the correct subnet, and we're going to go ahead now and ping 10.0.0.254, which is the gateway. Looks pretty good to me. But you know what? Let's go ahead and ping a DNS because we want to. Pinging on DNS is working. Now let's go ahead and ping google.com. And it's working. So as you can see here, everything is functioning the way you would want it to on a normal network. So when I go back over here to pfSense, you can see here that we went ahead and actually it is seeing some kilobytes to go through, and you'll see everything kind of going through these. As you can see, there's nothing on IPv6 because I don't use IPv6. Everything's turned off with that. But by default, they go ahead and open IPv6 and 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two very simple, well, technically three very simple rules on LAN 2. I'm not going to do anything with IPv6, but it is the same principle. Whatever we do with IPv4, we can do with IPv6. So let's go to our notes here. So we found out that pretty much we went ahead, tested connections with all of them, and they all failed, which makes sense that these all failed, but the DHCP worked because these are not working. So at the end, we're going to go back to these again at the end and see what happens once we configure the firewall rules. So for firewall rules for LAN 2, we're going to set up like this is going to be your home. So you're at your house. Even some small businesses you may do this for. But I would kind of not want to do this with any business just to be on the safe side for them. So pretty much we're going to set up three very basic rules. We're going to set up a allow rule and two block rules. The allow rule is going to allow us to have internet access for LAN 2. And then the block rule is going to block anything from LAN 2 and the DMZ. Okay, meaning that we cannot connect to either or. So I'm on LAN 2. When I want to try to get to the DMZ, it's going to tell me no. And the same thing if I'm on LAN, I'm trying to get to the LAN network, it's going to tell me no. So first thing is first. Go ahead and minimize this. So with the firewall rules, they're top-down rules. Okay. So the way this firewall here works is the rules come in, it goes, okay, what's the first rule? Okay, LAN address 443.80 anti-lockout rule, okay. Second one, IPv4, we're okay on the LAN net, anywhere it wants, good to get to the internet, perfect. IPv6, on the LAN net, open, ready to go. So it reads it from top to bottom. So however you have these set up is how the actual pfSense works. So if you do not want it to connect to the internet or you want to connect to the internet but you have certain ports blocked and you put it down below, it's not going to work because it's going to go ahead by default. So by default right now we have everything set to find the internet. All right. So if I put another rule above this that says block the internet, it's going to override this rule and say, wait a minute, you told me I'm not allowed to see the internet, so I'm not going to see the internet. And it's going to cause conflicts. Same thing with ports. So very simply, we're going to go over here to LAN 2. Okay, now the nice thing about certain things is that you can copy ports. So over here you have your move, so it can anchor down, move the checked rules above or below. You have your edit, you have your copy, your disable, and your trash can, which is delete. So say I want to copy this over to LAN 2. You know, I want this to be the default with it. I'm fine with the way this is set up. Instead of having to go through and actually creating the whole new rule, you can actually bypass a lot of it by just clicking copy. So we're going to click on copy here. Now you can see it's already set up exactly as the LAN rule is set up. The only thing we got to do is just change a couple things. First thing we got to change is the interface, because it's going to be on LAN 2. Now the same thing here, we have the source. The source is where it's all coming from, which will always be the interface that you're coming from. Well, for the most part, it's going to be the interface, not every time. So from here, we're going to go and click on LAN to net, and that is actually it. Down here for description, I always like to actually go ahead and write a description of what each one does. And we hit save. Okay, hit apply changes. You have to do apply changes every time you go in here and create a rule. You can create multiple rules and then hit apply changes. You don't have to create a rule, hit apply change, create a rule, apply change. But for these to actually take effect, you must go ahead and hit apply changes, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, so let's just look at LAN real quickly. So we have the IPv4, the LAN net, and everything port is any, destination is any, and gateway is the default. So let's go back over here to LAN. And as you can see here, IPv4, LAN net 2, which is what we're on, any port, any destination, any gateway, allow the internet. Okay. So we went ahead and added that. I'm going to go back down here. We're going to go to Raspbian. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect one more time. And I'm going to switch this over to LAN 2. Okay, clear out the screens here. Go ahead and reconnect. So what this rule is saying is that right now I should be able to ping everything on here, everything on here. So I should be able to see LAN 1, I should be able to see DMZ, Google, the whole 9 yards, and internet should work. Okay, that's pretty much what this is saying here. So we're going to go ahead and minimize this. Okay, 192.168.3.6. ISconfig just to make sure. Still a little wonky, but that's okay. So over here, we're going to go ahead and do the first thing is first. We're going to ping 192.168.3.1. I'm sorry, 3.254. And it sees it. So it sees our gateway. So now we're going to ping Google. As you can see, it sees Google. And we're going to ping a DNS. Alright, so over here, the three things that we wanted to do to ping our modem or gateway, to ping the internet, and to be able to ping a DNS server all passed. Alright, which makes sense why this one didn't work, because it was the wrong one. But if I would have done the right IP, that would have been fine. But over here, I'm going ahead and ping 10.0.0.254. As you can see, we get results. And ping 172.16.0.1. We get results. Now, we don't want that. I do not want us to be able to ping the other networks. I feel that, you know what, if we're in a separate network, we should be separate from everything else. I have no problem making my default LAN set up to that, or I'll set up VLANs for select computers and networks to touch to each other. But for this case, I want to block our LAN and our DMZ. So we go back over here, and the next two that we are going to be making is block connection to LAN. I'm sorry, block connection to LAN, and block connection to DMZ. Okay. And how are we going to do this? Very simple. So again, this is a top-down rule. So we're always going to click add rule to the top because we want it to block these things first. We want it to know that, hey, I don't want this to do anything. So we're going to go ahead and click block. Protocol will be any. As you can see here, I actually wrote everything down. So block is the action, interface is LAN 2, protocol is any, source, destination, and then ports. Okay, so let's go back here. Source is any. You can set it for LAN 2 if you want, but it doesn't matter. I can do any. And then we go here to LAN. And we're down here. We're going to type in block LAN 2 from LAN. Hit save. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and make one more. So again, block, protocols any, then destination is DMZ, and then block LAN 2 from DMZ. All right, hit save, then hit apply. So how this is going to work on this screen is it is going to look at the firewall rules for LAN 2. It's going to say, okay, we can't talk to DMZ.net, so anything on the 172.16.0.0 network. And we can't talk to anything on the LAN network, which is 10.0.0.0. But on the LAN 2 net, we can talk to everybody, and then we can talk out of it to go to the internet and see what we have to see. Okay? So we're going to go ahead back here, and then we're going to try to see if everything works. So 10.0.0.254, and it is dead. And then ping 172.16.0.1. Okay, but as you can see on the other screen here, we're able to see our modem. So we're still able to see that. Ping google.com, still able to see that. And ping our DNS. So that is a very basic way of how you're actually going to configure a firewall for a home, or even, like I said, a small business if that's really what they want to do. They want to install a firewall for when they get bigger, so they have all the features, and that's not bad. This is not the most ideal scenario though for if we're going to do a large scale type scenario where we're dealing with customers all the time, and we need to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities. Like for example, I'm hosting client data. So I don't want to have every port available open so that people can sit there and try to ping me and DDoS attack me and everything else. I don't want to have all that. So for here, I'm going to go ahead and clear these two screens one more time. And then down here, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our DMZ. Interface went dead. Okay, and as you can see, we found an IP. So if I ping 172.16.0.1, still dead. Okay, and that is because when we go over to DMZ, we haven't configured our DMZ protocols. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you a screenshot right here. And this is kind of what you'll see in like an enterprise type scenario, probably a little bit more than that. To kind of break this down for you very simply, What this is actually doing is that, as you can see, it's all the source is coming from DMZ-net. So I'm telling the system that it has to come from our DMZ. It's got to be from that. There's nothing else. So every protocol comes from us. And the reason why that is because there's no way of it just kind of sneaking in some magical way. The first three rules that you can see are block rules. The first one, we're obviously blocking the LAN. The second rule is LAN 2. Now the third one is blocking you from the web config. As you can see, the destination is this firewall, and it's at port 443. The web configuration for every one of them is 443. It blocks 80 automatically, or it actually disables 80. So on these networks, when you're trying to, like if you're on these networks and you don't want somebody to be on your gateway, you know, for whatever reason, to log in to see if they can get into it, this is where that rule comes in. So I'm telling it that if I'm on the DMZ net and I try to log into the firewall from the DMZ net, block me. Okay? Then we have a few basic, open ports. We have a DNS port, HTTP, HTTPS, our NTP port for our time, and our ping. Okay, now you can add other ones like SSH to it and everything, but I just kind of want to throw a few basics in here because I didn't want to, this video is long enough to begin with, so I didn't want to make it any longer than it has to be. So pretty much what I'm telling you to do is that for IPv4, the DNS runs off of UDP, so open up UDP for DMZ-net, okay, at 53. And the destination is DMZ-net. So what that means is that it's only going to look at the DNS server records inside your DMZ. So you can't just add like 1.1.1. It's not going to find it. It's only going to function if we have the DNS assigned to your DNS server. So for example, it's going to look at our router. It's going to find out where our DNSs are for our router, and then it's going to go ahead and apply them. If we have a DNS server, we will go ahead and set that up to where it's going to point to our DNS server, whether it's on a LAN or DMZ or so on. The DMZ server will more likely be a LAN type scenario if you're blocking it, but because we're going to heavy detail with this one, this is why I want to set this up. And then you got your two protocols, your HTTP and HTTPS. Now, 90% of the internet today is HTTPS. So we're going to want to make sure that's open. 80 we don't technically need to open unless you're doing like a web server or something like that, and you're still using HTTP. But because it's a protocol that some websites still use today, we like to open it up just so that I can be able to connect to the internet if need. If you don't need it, then you don't have to open it up. Your best bet is to only open up ports that you need to open. If you don't need to open it, then there's no reason to open it. Then you have your NTP. Now, you don't have to open this. This is up to you as well. It is your time sync. So the system syncs with the national time protocols from the internet. You can either leave them blocked, you can open them. It's up to you. It's the same thing with SSH. You don't have to. If your clock is working right on your system, you don't need to sync it. But it is nice that you can sync it if you want. And then the last one is ping. See, you can't ping anything unless you open the port for ICMP. And we're going to show you how to do all this stuff right from the start to finish. In all these situations, you can ping, but then you still, even though you have ping open, you'll be able to ping the ports. Like say I can ping Google. I just can't open Google because I don't have port 443 open and available on this network. And as you can see, it's also the way it's set up is top down. So the firewall rule goes as followed. It will block the LAN 2, and then block the firewall web config. Then once it gets past that, it's going to say, okay, we can allow the DMZ, but only on the DMZ net is available. It will not find any DNS servers from the internet. So technically 8.8.8.8 wouldn't work. But considering I had that configured with the firewall, it will work. Then next thing it says, okay, we're going to open up port 80. We're going to open up port 443. open up port 123, and we're able to ping all ports at the final thing. And then technically by default, if it's not on this list, it is automatically blocked. All right, you can also add a block rule if you want. By at the bottom there, you say, okay, block everything else if it's not listed previously above. You can do that as well. I know some people that do that for extra measures of security in case the port is open without verifying it. You can also use this to block other ports too. Like for example, if you want to block like TeamViewer from logging in, you would just set this up as you would see here. Your source would be the DMZ, destinations. Well, technically your source would be any, the destination would be you, and it would be the port, whatever it may be. So 3389 is remote desktop. So we would block remote desktop connection. So after explaining it, let's go ahead and do it. First things first, we're going to click add. Now I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly, but everything we're doing here is listed here from 1 to 8. And this was down in the description below, so if you want, you can just go ahead and just follow that as long. But I'm going to try to get through this as fast as possible to keep the video as short as possible. First is action, we're going to do pass. Interface is DMZ. Protocol, ICMP. Okay, we're going to go to any. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and leave the source and destination. Well, source is going to be DMZ net. Destination is any. And then we're just going to type in ping DMZ network. Save. So as you can see here, we'll go ahead and bring this back up. Shrink it down a little bit, which is not doing very well. But as you can see here, IPv4, ICPM, DMZ net, any, and then ping. So, okay. So next thing we're going to add is the time. Click add to the top. Now you always click add to the top. Eventually you may have to start switching back and forth between them, but on initial setup, you always want to start with the bottom first you want to do, and then do blocks last. So do all your allows first, and then do your blocks last. So again here, click on any. Actually, I think I'm wrong. I am wrong. It's UDP. DMZ net. And from here, we're going to look for 123. And then this will be NTP port or time. Save. Now, if you want, you can go in here and under source, set the source as well for the same thing for, I feel like, an extra added value of security. So as you can see here as DMZ net, but I have any port and any destination. You can go ahead and actually add the same ports you see here under here, because there's a very good chance they're going to be the same port. If you're not sure, then you can leave it blank. So next in our list is 443. So pass, DMZ, TCP, DMZ net. Then we're going to look for HTTPS. Then we're going to call this HTTP access, internet access for DMZ. And hit save. Go ahead and add again. Same thing, TCP. Source is DMZ net. And then destination port is HTTP. Then we're going to type in HTTP internet access for DMZ. Hit save. Okay. Next one is the DNS. So this one's a little bit different. It is going to be a UDP as the protocol. The source is going to be DMZ net, and the destination will also be a DMZ net. Now, if you're actually setting up a real DMZ, you're probably not going to worry about this as much. But some companies do. I've set up a company where they wanted the DNS all internal. They didn't want anything leaving the building so they can monitor everything they did on DMZ and LAN. So this would be something you have to set up here. Okay, and type in DNS traffic for DMZ. Hit OK. So, and like I said before, under port here, if you want to make it 443, 80, and everything, you can. I usually don't even bother with it unless there's a reason for it. So we created all our allows, so I'm going to hit apply changes now. Okay. And here we actually have a couple things like the separators. So I'm going to create a separator real quickly. I'm going to call these allowed service ports. We're going to call it. And we're going to make it green, which is a very terrible looking green. So we're going to go back to blue. Move that to the top there. And then you have to hit save and apply changes. So it gives it a little bit of a breakup when you do here, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding the block features. And as you can see here, we're going to block the firewall, the access to the firewall, and the access to LAN and LAN 2. So add to the top. We're going to go to block. Now the reason why we don't use reject is because reject will actually give them a reason why it's rejected, like saying port's not available or port's incorrect or something. And for people who are trying to exploit your system, they might be able to use that data to figure out how to get around everything, or at least find out what system you're using and so on, to find any kind of hacks that they may need. With a block, it just says, hey, there's no answer back, there's nothing, it's just, hey, get away from me. So we're going to hit block, DMZ, TCP, and DMZ net, like always, duh. Then we're going to go to this firewall under destination. And then we're going to hit HTTPS. And then we're going to do block web config. Hit save. All right, two more. And these are actually two very simple ones. Block, okay, any. Source is DMZ to LAN. So block DMZ to LAN traffic. Make that capital to everything go with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this real quickly, because all I want to do is just change this to LAN 2, change the description, and hit save. Okay. Then down here I'm going to add one more separator, make it red, and type in block services and network connections. And save. Okay, I'm going to pull that to the top, hit save. Now, actually, block. Okay, I'm going to save that, actually, put that up top because I want it to be two different colors. Hit save down there, and then hit apply changes. So everything that we did on here, that was on this list, and everything that's on this list, we went ahead and created in here. We also added separators too, so that's easy for us to look. So we know where all the block services are, where all these are. Now you can always add extra separators, so we can just do internet access. Okay, click on green, save. So I can add this to here. So let's get a little crazy with it. I'll move this one down. Internet access is up to here. So there we go. And we're going to hit save. So as you can see here, I now broke it into three different categories. Our basic block service and network connections. So these are all our blocks. All right. internet access. So these are the two that require internet. And then our service ports, which is our time, DNS, and ping. So at the top, we always got to make sure we hit apply changes. Okay, so now we went ahead and did all this. Let's go see if it actually now works. So I hope it does. So first things first, ifconfig. Sit there and show that we are on the DMZ net. Down at the bottom it says internet adapter DMZ. Over here DMZ, so we know we're on the DMZ. Okay, on the right hand we're going to go first thing is first. Ping our gateway. So 172.16.0.1. Looking pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to ping Google. And as you can see here, web traffic is working. And then we're going to now ping a DNS server. And that looks like it's working. So we have verified that it's right now ping is working. So let's go back over here. We verified that ping is working. DNS traffic is technically working. We're going to prove that works even more in a few seconds. We're also showing that both of these for 80 and 443 are functioning and working, so we're able to connect to the internet, or at least ping the internet at the moment. So let's see if we can see the internet. Going to go ahead and open up our Firefox. Let's go to YouTube. And look at that. So HTTPS and YouTube is working. Let's go to fox.com, which I've never been to. So internet's technically working. So the next thing we got to figure out is, one, are the blocks now working? So are we able to ping and see LAN and LAN 2 and the firewall? So first thing is first, 172.16.0.1. That is our firewall gateway web configure. So let's see if we can see it. Not looking too good right now. All right, but this is what you want. I don't want to reject. I don't want a 404 or anything. I want it to just pretty much just be like no, and don't tell me why it's not working. But if we go back to here, I can actually ping our gateway, and that we want because if we're having networking problems, I want to be able to know it can see the gateway. I don't need to get into it and configure it. I just need to be able to see it. And see, we're getting too long to respond, and that's because we have it set for block, so it's not going to give us a 404 error or any kind of errors at all. So now let's see if we can ping the other ones. So ping 10.0.0.254. Now this is our LAN address. And we're getting nothing. And the same thing for our LAN 2. And nothing. Okay, so the way this all works is that everything here is working the way it's supposed to be. All right, so what I'm going to do just for extra measures is we're going to power up one more VM. And I just want to show you that we can actually see the other VM on there. So we're going to go to my dual boot here. Just want to dump the memory a little bit because I'm probably running low on it. So right now the network adapter is LAN. We're going to set this up for DMZ. We're going to power it on. Now what this should be able to do is we should be able to again see everything we saw in Raspbian. Load up the Linux Mint. So as we saw in Raspbian, we were able to see the internet, get to the internet, unable to load all this stuff. So in case somebody doesn't want to believe it works, or we're doing something squirrely, we're going to go ahead and test this on Linux Mint. Just bear with it. And this is the reason why I use Raspbian more than I use the other ones right now, is because it does take a little bit too long. Okay, type in my very secure password. Alright, so let's open up a terminal real quickly. ifconfig. As you can see, it is pulling an IP. So let's try it here. Ping 172, oops. Ping 172.16.0.1. Looking good. Ping google.com. Looking pretty good. Ping the DNS of Google. Now this is technically our DNS for the time being. The next video, or one of the other videos I'm going to be doing, I'm going to actually install a Windows server with Active Directory, DHCP, and DNS on LAN 1, and we're going to change the DNS servers for that. Okay, but now let's test out ping 10.0.0.254. You see it does nothing. And then 192.168.3.25, yeah, 254. And still nothing. So now let's go on to the internet. Let's go on CNN.com. Okay, as you can see, found the website. And then let's go ahead and try to connect to the web configurator. So 172.16.0.1. And nothing. 10.0.0.254. Okay, so it sees none of the web configurators. Now the reason why it doesn't see this web config is, again, because our rule says don't talk to LAN. So it automatically is going to block it no matter what. So let's close out of this. But if we remember the way we set up our firewall, so I'll minimize this, under LAN 2, we don't have that firewall rule that says don't talk to the web config on LAN 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and just quickly switch this over to LAN 2. Okay, you can see it went dead. Let's open up. ifconfig is showing that we are getting a 192.168.3.9. So we should be able to see the web config now. Oops, wrong button. Okay, confirm it. and now I'm able to get into the web config through this way. If you do not want them in your web configuration, which I'm pretty sure nobody does outside the admin, I would make sure that it is blocked on your ports. You change it, whatever you need to do to make it not connect to it. You can also change the port as well if you want to, from 443 to whatever you want, I believe under advanced. I could be wrong, but I think it's under... Well, unfortunately, I don't remember which spot it is, but I will go ahead. But when we do our actual update on that one, because I'm actually going to do a video on how to change everything. And in here, under General, this is where you're going to add and change your DNS ports. So you can see here we have that one. I will be adding my DNS, removing these, but that will be done in another video. Yeah, I don't remember where it actually is to change the port, but that's okay. I'm pretty sure you actually can do it under the client too, under pfSense. But as you can see here, you can still access this from that. So in this video, I pretty much showed you how to set up a DHCP for your multiple NICs. I went ahead and showed you how to set up a very basic network configuration. And I also went and showed you a very detailed configuration on how to do more blocks and everything else. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for everything here. So like I said, we went ahead and we set up our DHCP servers for LAN 2 and the DMZ. All right, then we went ahead into our firewall rules, and then we went and configured our LAN 2 firewalls to block the networks, and then the same thing with our DMZ to go a little further into our blocking on how we're going to set everything up. So I hope you guys liked the video. I hope it was a little informative. I've seen these types of videos out there. They're more confusing than anything, so I decided to actually build a lab environment like this so that you can follow along. Especially considering trying to find a VMware lab that somebody tells you how to set up the NICs like I have. There's not many of them out there that tell you that. They tell you to use NAT, use this and this, and we don't want to do that. We want everything to be as if like we bought the appliance. So this is actually set up that way, because if I turn pfSense off, the internet stops working on all the actual other networks. So on here, if I ever say I don't want to use pfSense, if I boot this down, Raspbian will never find the internet again or anything like that. It'll all be dead, because these NICs need pfSense to do everything it needs to do. And like I said, I don't find that video at all on the internet. So I'm kind of hoping it does help out people. My next video is going to be how to set up the Active Directory in Windows. I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to do a Linux one. So the next video, I'm going to show you how to set up a Windows server, how to remove the DHCP off of pfSense on LAN 1, and how to configure the server to function properly on LAN 1, also be the DNS and the DHCP off of that. So pfSense will mainly act as a DNS resolver for the Windows server, like a second DNS, as well as just a gateway. The video after that, I plan on doing a Debian 10 version of an Active Directory, but I'm going to let the DNS be shared with Debian and pfSense, but I'm also going to leave DHCP turned on to show that if you do leave DHCP on, you don't have to put a DHCP server on your Linux as well. Windows kind of forces you to put DHCP on, so you really don't have much of a choice with that, but you can go ahead and separate the two or add failover between them. That's just something that I really wouldn't care too much about doing. If you're gonna have it set up, just have it set up. And then after that, I'm probably gonna end up doing another thing with how to add NAS boxes to and everything. So we're gonna keep going as far as we can with this until there's really nothing much left to do with pfSense. We're going to put Snort on there eventually, and Squid proxies, so that we can block websites and everything. So it's going to be a pretty long web tutorial for everything. Most of the videos are going to be kind of long because we have to go through a lot of information. So in hindsight and everything and foresight, sorry for that, but I mean, it is a lot we have to go over, but I do feel that, you know, you're going to get and understand this more if you do it the way I'm showing it to you than probably just Googling or reading the actual, you know, guides on the internet on how to do everything. So if you like my videos, like, subscribe, come back again. Hopefully I'll have other videos out ready to go for this web series. And if anything, I hope you guys enjoy your day and everybody be safe. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.